This episode is brought to you by Audi. The road is calling. Embrace the thrill of the drive with the all-new, fully electric Audi Q6 e-tron. Featuring effortless power, serious acceleration, and advanced Audi tech. It's not just a new EV. It's a new way to experience driving. The all-new, fully electric Audi Q6 e-tron is here. The next chapter of Audi starts now.
Welcome to the Kitchen Conversations. At the Foul Weather Podcast, we truly believe that the kitchen is a perfect place for sharing information, spending time with family and friends, and genuinely bullshitting about life, ducks, the science of duck migration, duck conservation, and duck hunting itself. At either home or camp, the kitchen is a place to celebrate the day and come together to learn from each other, but also simply enjoy life. The Foul Weather Podcast aims to use the Kitchen Conversations as a way to bring duck science with duck science people directly to you in raw form. But we also aim to simply talk with duck people across duck country as well. Very often you will notice that duck science people are also duck people from across duck country. Think about that for a second. Most of the people that work really hard to conserve ducks and duck habitat are also duck hunters from across duck country, USA. So before you vilify all the state and federales and nonprofit people out there that are working for the ducks, just take a step back and realize they might not always be making the best decisions, but they're using the best information available, and we're all in this together. So let's not treat folks like enemies. Let's sit down in their kitchens, have great conversations, have some great food, some great drink, and bullshit. Let's bullshit about some ducks. We're back with Mike Bard and Matt Frackleton for another episode of the Kitchen Conversations. We did this last year about the same time. I think it was during the split of the Western Zone again. But we're going to get into what is there, an extra week in this, like the off portion of the Western Zone this year? Is that what it is?
We bumped it back.
Is 1 week different?
Yep.
So it seems like forever.
Yeah. It started earlier, and then we have a bigger gap.
Yeah.
It does.
And then a longer late season.
That's what I've noticed, is it really feels like I haven't been duck hunting forever in this part of the world. I'm going to go float a stream in the southeast tomorrow morning. I got a buddy I'm going with. And we want to start maybe a little later because it's going to pour.
Yeah.
So here's a question for you. Don't know the answer. If you're floating a stream, can one person carry a shotgun with a slug in it, or is it actually considered lead still and you can't do it? I say you can. But I think an econ would have a hard time writing a ticket for it, or not. But I just don't know what you can do. But then you still have to be in full orange if you're deer hunting.
Deer hunting.
So it's not like really a thing you can do. You can either float and deer hunt, or you can float and duck hunt. But doing both seems like...
Yeah, I feel like they're going to get you.
Somehow.
They're going to get you, probably rightfully so, for some technicality if you're trying to hunt two different things at one time.
I already told my buddy, I'm like, no, I'm not doing it at all. So if somebody stops and be like, that's on him. Yeah. That's on him. I just think I'm going to talk him out of it is what we're going to do mostly. So.
Which guarantees you're going to see a 10-point standing on the bank or something in public.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, I always wonder, too, like, how many properties are you floating through? Yeah. So that seems sketchy in and of itself for the most part. But so this time we are not in my kitchen. We are in Bard's...
Bar.
What is it? Bard's bar, Bard's man cave. Has a fish. How many gallons is your fish tank over there?
200.
200. Mm-hmm. So freshwater fish tank.
Yeah.
Cool. How many years? So I'm looking at, just for everybody's benefit here. Mike's had. Well, you've done the Grand Slam. We talked about that last time. Oh, did you actually get back your results on your Mexican duck?
So one was a hybrid.
Oh.
And one, well, they're behind you. So one mounted is a hybrid, and one is a full Mexican duck.
So you got those done by Phil Lavretsky's lab then? Like the duck DNA stuff? Like they got sent there, I think.
Yeah,
right?
they like when we got them, they just clipped. I think we were getting ready to go actually last time we did this. We were getting ready to go to Arizona, and every Mexican mallard, Mexican duck we shot, the guide was, I guess, getting samples for them, and he snipped their tongue, and they went into a little test tube and took some different information and stuff like that. And
so you officially know that you got one, though. That's what's cool, because I was like, maybe you didn't actually get one, you know? So.
Well, you actually, when we had that conversation, you really made me nervous because I knew one of them that I brought home had green flecks in its head.
Yeah.
And we kind of were like, well, that's cool. But then I'm like, that's probably not purebred.
Maybe
I'm
that's
like,
not
it's probably not pure.
Right.
But, so one did have some typical mallard in it, like standard mallard, and then one was pure. So
it's easier. There's not as much hybridization of those as there is like eastern mallards with game farms, and like the Florida mottled duck is kind of screwed. Actually, we were talking about Dominic, my PhD student, before this, that I didn't know this. This is crazy. So I'm chatting with him the other day, and he's like, "Yeah, Frackleton introduced me to duck hunting too," and I'm like, "My goodness, like." Half the marsh is full of people that Frack just took out. Kudos for you, though. Like, I teach him at the university. I teach him at the university level, but you teach him how to hang out in the marsh. So
it's those Montezuma youth hunts.
Yeah.
But Dominic's working on game farm mallard stuff. You guys have been voluntarily collecting some duck bills and other things for him. But looks like we're getting into mottled ducks now too. We've got some collaborators down there that are going to give us duck bills and feet and wings and stuff. I'm not going to go into detail of all of it, but high science shit.
What's the part of the bill? He explained it a little bit to me, but
the whole thing. So we're looking at Well, we'll get into it then. Since
sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. It's the mechanoreceptors on it, and most of those are in the tip of the bill. So a lot of people think about like the lamellae, the like tooth-like things on bills but really where ducks figure out what is in the water and whether they're going to ingest it is most of their sensory, like, you know, your fingertips so you can feel your food. Well, all they have is a bill. So almost all their receptors are at the end of their bill. And like dabbling ducks have like 5 times as many receptors as diving ducks. And what I always wondered is there's diving ducks that actually will feed more by tactile, but like they'll feed at night. And then there's others that like are almost 100% sight feeders. And so I wonder how much less maybe some of these diving ducks have of these mechanoreceptors that do it by sight. They like see a mussel and they grab it, you know. So, but you see your food and you still have to be able to feel it with your hand to get it to your face. So I expect they all still have some of them. But the idea is that we think game farm mallards actually have lost a lot of those mechanoreceptors because they don't have to really feel their food as much. Because it's about 400 years since we first started breeding these things in Europe until now. And if you think it's one generation, that's 400 generations of ducks in captivity. Yeah. That's insane, right? So we think they've actually lost those mechanoreceptors, those game farm birds, because they're just feeding on corn and pellets and stuff, and they don't have to sift through. And we also found that game farm birds in like a standardized study, I think you've heard this, are feeding at about 50% of the rate that wild birds are, right? So when we give them like a slurry of mud and water and stuff, they're feeding at 50% of the rate. So now we're trying to figure out why, right? What is it about the bill? Is it the shape of it, the size of it? Or I think really the mechanoreceptors are kind of a neat thing. So you got to like slice the bill and stain it and put it under a scope to count them, but cool. It's pretty cool stuff. Yeah. So how many years, Mike, has it taken you to acquire? I got speckle bellies. I got common eiders. You got fulvus and black belly whistling ducks. Of course, you got all your mergansers.
Yes. The merg wall.
How many years did it take you to get them all?
That's a good question. I mean, I started hunting when I was 14. And I'm 49, and I guess I completed it. Well, I guess it keeps evolving because they added. Well, I at least in my head added the emperor goose and then the Mexican duck, which aren't part of any official list. But in my head, if you're going to say you did it, you better get them.
You better get them.
If somebody like decided they were a different species and you can hunt them, but It was, sometime in the probably late 2000s. I went to Alaska for the first time with my friend Dave Rearick, and he and the guide that we were with, we were there to hunt harlequins and Barrow's goldeneye, and I went just because I thought it was going to be awesome to hunt in Alaska. And the conversation at dinner was about completing your slam, and I was like, "What the hell are these guys talking about?" Like the only slams I know are like for sheep and big game stuff,
right? And turkeys and stuff. Yeah.
So they're like, "Oh no, there's like, this official, unofficial list," and I'd never even thought about it, never heard about it. But when they showed me the list, I'm thinking in my head, going down through it, I'm like, "Oh, I did that, and I only had 6 left." At that point in time. So once I realized, like,
because you'd already just traveled everywhere, anyway, without thinking about it.
I'd been fortunate to make a lot of friends all over the place. We've swapped hunts. I love to go see how people do it differently here and there, just see different landscapes and whatnot. But just throughout networking and getting the opportunity to go hunt different places and just hunting a lot, and the random onesie twosie things you get from just being out there. I only needed 6 different species at the time, and at that moment at dinner, I had made it my life's mission to be
That's what you were doing.
I'm doing
so
this.
I remember the first one I remember when you were getting there was the cinnamon tealer. Was that your
that
last
was the last.
one?
That was the last
before the
one,
Mexican.
Before the Mexican and the
became
Emperor.
A thing, right?
Yeah, the Emperor goose, like a year or two after I got the cinnamon, that became they came back out and said, okay, we're going to do a lottery. 25 non-residents can get a permit. I did not get drawn the first year. My same friend I went to Alaska with, Dave Rearick, he got drawn the first year, and then I was lucky and got drawn the second year.
Yeah.
And now, unfortunately, it's over. There's no more.
We'll come up with something.
Yeah.
So you talked to some goose people, and they like to split all the geese too. So
yeah.
That's all mostly subspecies stuff, but it gets a little messy with white cheek geese. You've just done Ontario and Missouri this year, is what you've done?
Yeah.
Or have you gone anywhere
outside
else?
of New York? I guess.
Outside of New York.
We've gone to Missouri. I was just in Missouri a week or so ago, and then I drove 18 hours and got in a car with him and went to Ontario the next day. So.
And Frack, you don't you hunt your ass off, but you don't really travel to hunt. You just hunt mostly like what you can drive in a day type thing, like within New York mostly?
I do. I have hunted the Central Flyway. I've hunted a bunch of other states, but it's usually if I have buddies. And, same thing Mike was talking about. You got a buddy, you trade hunts, or just, you have family down there, so you try to figure something out while you're down there.
Yeah.
I haven't done, other than going to Arizona and Alaska with him, I haven't done any trips specifically for a target species or a target bird.
I forgot you went to Alaska with me the last time we went.
Well, I'm supposed to go to Ohio and hunt in late next week, but it might not be a thing with our folks at Winus Point that we collaborate with out there.
Because
they're gonna freeze up. I mean, I don't know what you guys are looking at. I'm pissed as a marsh hunter around here this year. You're probably loving it with the new survey that came out.
I'm pretty excited right now.
Right, exactly. But like for marsh hunters, like we really had 21 days in the western zone, and that's a little soul crushing. So the new question that ended up on the survey was like, do you want to hunt when ducks are the most concentrated because of ice or something? But like, I feel like this is me, and we're gonna disagree about this, which is fine. I don't care. It's all good. But like, I feel like that's a leading question, because most people will be like, oh yeah, but they're like marsh hunters, and they don't think that if they don't have a boat and can't get out on the big lakes and rivers and stuff, that it's not as good for them as like answering yes to that, right? I don't know if that was a question, because it would say, way I would write it is like, even if that means that all the marshes are frozen and the only places to hunt are big lakes and you need a boat. But that's leading too. Yeah. Like, that's a really hard question to put in a survey so that you can place the season for hunters, I think.
But they also ask questions about, do you want to hunt on Martin Luther King Day and stuff like that? And I was like, that's a pretty specific holiday to want to hunt. But
I thought too that some of the questions it's hard to get in a one sentence question, but like, do you want to hunt at the peak of mallard migration? Yeah, that sounds good. Who doesn't? Do you want to do you want to hunt when ducks are most abundant, or like, you know, in that area, or the peak of migration? It's like, yeah, that's awesome. I love hunting on like a north wind when you have fresh birds coming down. But then the hard part is like, how do you set that a year in advance?
When does that happen?
Or 5 years in advance? Right. You know, I mean, there's so many variables.
Like, I think right now, locally, I don't know if you've driven around and looked, but like, I would have. Okay, so I'm really into my deer hunting, and all the listeners know that. And I've been, the rut's been amazing. I've probably had more big bucks cross cameras and stuff this year than ever before. And I'm like, all geeked out. And like, when I came in here, the first thing I did is start showing you guys pictures of deer. Like, I'm not like, here, look at these ducks, because it's like the in between time, and I'm not thinking about it as much. But right now, I would have liked to have the choice to take a day away from the tree stand and go shoot ducks, because I think we're probably, as far as most species, like, getting towards peak, I think, at least in the marshes, not concentrated on the big water. And I would have rather just hunted completely through the split myself. But New York, it's just such a hard state, because you could shoot ducks here from the end of August until the end of January. So I look at it as a blessing more than a curse. And I would hate to be the state trying to figure out when to put those days, honestly, for hunters.
Yeah, they don't have an easy job, and I don't think you're going to make everybody happy. And in retrospect, I think, for me personally, the old season we used to have opening after Christmas, I think was probably better than the last 4 or 5 years that we've had. At least for me personally, even for puddle ducks, I did like having that, and I think having that break helped. I think, you know, when they first came out with, like, the longer later season, it was like, oh, this is going to be awesome. But when you're hunting those same ducks from November or December all the way through till the end, you know, the divers and stuff were pretty stale. They were feeding at night. They wouldn't come to shore. You know, it got hard to kill them.
See, what I never liked was when it was, like, those 2 weeks at the end, and it was right around, like, between Christmas and New Year's and stuff.
The day after Christmas.
Everybody had off, and it was just a frickin' war zone. And I felt like those birds, even though they built up, and there were a lot of them, that the pressure just pushed them to sit in the middle of the lake and do nothing. Like, after 2 days, it was crap again, you know? And so I like the moving it to December. Like, this year's going to bite me as a marsh hunter, but we get a lot of freeze-thaw stuff. And if we get a whole pile of snow, if we get a foot of snow and then it gets warm again and melts, the rivers are going to flood, and it's going to be lights out. Because you're like, and people talk about reverse migration, and we have, on the, you know, podcast migration prediction stuff we do, we have no way to really see that stuff. It's just, are they increasing or decreasing in your area? But you feel like all the ducks are gone, and then if you get a river flood, all of a sudden they're all over the place. And I think a lot of that with us is we have big lakes near us, though, and they probably just sit on the lake and then come back off. I don't feel like there's birds coming back from, like, Pennsylvania and Chesapeake Bay and stuff like that at that point. But anyhow, it's that December period, I always thought that, for divers at least, redheads, cans, and stuff like that, bluebills, as they're showing up at different times in December, you could hit those migrations, and maybe, rather than them all stack up and then pound them all at once, you could kind of shoot them over an extended period of time. But I thought
that would have been the case, but at least for me personally, the last 4 or 5 years, I have not had good diver hunting. It's been way down. I keep logs, so my logs of bluebills, redheads, I haven't shot a can in 4 years. So just that, you know, to me, the diver hunting, at least for me personally, where I hunt, was better in the, you know, the old season model than it's been. This year we're moving back a little later, so we'll see what happens.
But it's also like, it's confounded, because we're gonna be weather, when we hit, I think it's from Friday night till like Tuesday right now in the long term, we're not going to be above freezing. We're going to be, the high for the day is going to be right around 32, and everything's going to be in like the mid-20s. I mean, if you don't get good hunting when that opens back up on big water, I'd be surprised, unless it really warms up, you know.
Yeah, the weather's been squirrely, though, the last few years, too. And, like, even though it's going to be super cold here the next few days, it could be 70 degrees the week after, for, you know what I mean? And then maybe everything does flood because it froze or whatnot. But, like, last year, we were talking about this on the drive home yesterday. We hunted the refuge the second to last day of the season.
Yeah.
In December 30th last year, we hunted the refuge. And we shot teal.
Yeah.
So
Green wings, not
yeah,
blue wings.
green
No.
wings,
Yeah.
But
No. When we
December
were-
30th, the last second to last day of the season last year, we shot teal.
Linda Ziamba, the biologist there that you guys know, said they could have done duck counts on the refuge the entire winter. They had pintails that stayed the entire winter. So, yeah, that's screwy. And like when we were in North Dakota at the end of October, there were blue wings still everywhere. And I always call blue wings like there really aren't a lot of calendar ducks out there. But blue wings are. They just leave the continent and go south. But they still adjust some. Like nothing is truly calendar. Nothing is truly weather. They all make trade-offs of those things, you know. What was I going to say? Oh, like diving ducks. We've been running the new models we've been running with diving ducks. And we've kind of worked that into the migration forecast stuff. But they are like way more calendar than other species, actually. The divers are. And so it's like if you're like in the Upper Miss River in Great Lakes, in October, you're going to get these little tiny increases in numbers. And if the weather is worse, you get a bigger increase. And then in November, it's like the increases are bigger, but then when you get bad weather, those increases are really big. And then in December, it goes the other way. So if it's actually mild weather in December, you get this increase in ducks of diving ducks, and then if it's like really severe, they actually start to decline. But it's not until December in that kind of Upper Miss Great Lakes region. But it's very calendar of like they're gonna start to increase or decrease at these certain times in certain places. So, like we've got. Have you been to the refuge to see the main pool? The non-huntable area for people that are listening. Most of it's non-huntable, but loaded with cans and redheads, which seems. What do you think's going on there? Because that seems way wicked early, doesn't it?
Oh, they're there. No, they've been there. They're there for.
But
they don't
compared
leave.
to past years.
But they don't. They're here.
Yeah.
They're here early, but they just don't leave the refuge, or they leave at night. So you're here, but you can't hunt them.
Right.
So until the refuge freezes, they're smart.
So the day
They
it
hang out
freezes is
there.
when you got to be down in the lake when they start moving out.
And if it stays frozen, then they're there. And if it's cold, they've got to feed.
Yeah.
If it's 60 degrees in December, they can stay in the middle of the lake all day, and they're not coming to shore. They're not going anywhere you can hunt them. And they've gotten a lot of pressure, so I feel like they're even like layout boats and stuff. They're pretty. It still works, but it's not. The diver hunting has not been that good the last couple of years.
if they move back and forth, like it thaws and then refreezes, that's when it gets better, possibly, because are they smart after that first time?
They get. I think to your point, like the old season. After that first weekend, they take a beating, and then it's just a matter of if there's not a lot of other options, though. If the only open water are the big lakes, rivers, flowing water, there's just not that many. You're still going to get them because unless they migrate south, they're still here.
So I want to jump on this who ruined the boat motor yesterday in Canada, because I saw it. I said, you guys want to do this interview? And I don't know who sent me a picture. I think it was you. This is our current situation, and you were getting towed.
Yeah.
But
No. We were
towing.
So it was not your boat motor. Were you helping
Correct.
somebody else?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Well, they
That's
hunted with us, though.
Okay. Oh, so it was still.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we had a lot of boat motor issues. My motor was down, so we couldn't take my boat because the oil pump went, and they couldn't get the part in time to have it fixed before we left. And so our buddies up there, we were using their boat.
We couldn't take we were going to take my boat originally, but upon inspection, I realized I don't have a license plate anymore. So that must be in a boat launch somewhere or along the side of the road somewhere. And I need to find a police officer to fill out a certain form to then take to the DMV, and like you had to re-register it and everything. But so it was just a calamity of like.
Most people just grab whatever license plate.
But
off
we
of
were going to cross the border.
Oh yeah.
So
that
we don't get us wrong. We were both like, oh, well, just swap plates with my other trailer. But then I'm like, no, we got to go across the border.
Yeah.
And if that's the Wild West.
How is it with guns and then bringing birds back now? Is it pretty straightforward, or you just got to get used to it? Is it
you got to
slow?
answer that separately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bringing guns is not a big deal.
Right.
Is
it $50 or something?
25 Canadian, which is $17.50.
It's like a nickel.
US. Yeah.
US.
Yeah. I highly recommend buying all sorts of stuff while you're in Canada because it's so cheap. But But yeah,
But you have to claim that just so so people are aware.
We were nice guys, and we bought lunch and bought breakfast and stuff for people. And then I'm like,
consumables.
Yeah. I look at my receipts and look at my bank account afterward to see what it really cost me. And it was like, oh, it was only 66% of what it should have cost me. It's great. But anyway, the bird thing, it continually varies. Like, it seems like for 10 days you can bring birds back. You do have to fill out I don't know the name of the form, but you fill out an import form.
It's like a migratory bird import form or something.
It can be utilized for, I think, any kind of like wild game or whatever.
Okay.
But you complete that, it's some USDA form, and you just fill that out, have your wing on attached. Nope, it's never a problem.
Have they come and looked at them? I mean, we sat one time for an hour and a half when we came back from Ontario, and they were like trying to find somebody that would even like go open the back of the truck and look at dead ducks.
Yeah, so I think if you go and you like have the form and kind of take the initiative that you've done this before, you know what you're doing, and
thanks, man.
And
it's been a day. I'm gonna have a second beer here.
And I think that goes a long way. And a lot of times they don't have someone from Fish and Wildlife there to do the inspection.
Right.
So then they're kind of like, maybe they look in your cooler, maybe they just look at your form and say, good job.
Right.
Go ahead.
Our guy looked at them the one time and he was like, yep, those are ducks. It's like, just wanted to confirm it wasn't like a woolly mammoth or something.
Yeah. But now with avian influenza, the ability to bring any kind of fowl, whether you bought it at a supermarket or it's wild, that continually changes. And I don't even know if the communication from port to port is good. So like,
depending upon where you're at.
They might have like got the update when they got to work that morning. It's like, hey, no fowl can come across. And then they heard that on Monday. But then 2 weeks later, it's been approved that you can bring it across, but they haven't gotten that update yet or whatnot. So then there's some issue. So
I did not know that.
So we play, because I've been up to Canada three times, and once it was okay to bring back, once it wasn't okay to bring back. We weren't sure this time, so we just cleaned all the birds and gifted ours to the three gentlemen we hunted
there
with.
You go.
And they were making some sausage with
out
us,
of what, Mergansers?
GoldenEye.
Great.
GoldenEye.
So in case people aren't aware, this is the Merg Squad. GoldenEyes are very close relatives to Mergansers, by the way. So yeah, I might make sausage out of GoldenEyes. I don't know that I'd eat.
Well,
I'd eat hoodeds, but that's about it.
We had some kind of chili when we were there that the boys made that was with sausage that was made from duck and goose.
That was excellent.
Yeah, it was good. It's great.
Yeah.
Nice.
So
yeah, these guys are known as the Merg Squad. So the episode before was the Merg Squad Abides, which is like a play on words from the Big Lebowski. So I'm going with movie theme. We're calling this the Revenge of the Merg Squad this time. So, and there is, if for those of you sticking with us here, there is Merganser Trivia at the end. You got a pen and paper around here somewhere, I'm guessing, at some point?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, because we can't let you guys cheat and see each other's answers. So
I'll get it wrong.
Did you happen to listen to the one that was from North Dakota where we did just waterfowl trivia with my friend Sean and Jim and Sarah?
Yeah. I feel like we need more people, though. We need more participants for
that. Then two? Yeah, but you guys, I really made these questions pretty easy. So we're going to cover some other territory before we get into that. Stuff's been pretty mild weather-wise this year, though. You've still been killing birds, though. Like, reasonable, just because stuff's been hanging around? Or you've just been traveling a lot to find them?
I think, I don't want to speak for Bard, but I think
I have nothing pretty much most days. So.
I have nothing better going. I have nothing better to do, so hey, I'm willing to do whatever I have to do to.
So you're a consultant. You work for an environmental consulting firm. Your title is probably like professional muscle wrangler, like code 5 at this point.
Professional redneck. That's what
Professional
I describe myself
redneck.
as.
They
Yeah.
send you wherever.
If you need something caught,
Yeah.
I'm the guy.
They haven't made you dive in a toxic sewer tank lately?
Oh, not recently, but we did back in like July and August. That was our last dive job for the year.
Wow.
Yeah.
I give you credit, but you get a lot of time off after this, so not a bad career.
Yeah. If it's hunting season, I try not to travel too much. I try to stick local.
Go after your Mergansers.
Exactly.
This is what's hilarious. Is like when I'm texting you guys over getting you together, they're like, "Well, we got a lot of Merganser shooting to do, so we might be around, we might not."
We had a lead. Our buddies, our buddies in Canada were like, "Hey, man, the Merg showed up this weekend. Like, when can you come?" I'm like, "All right, we're there."
It was interesting too because down here it's mostly hens and juveniles, and up there, which is only a 3-hour drive, it's mostly big sexies, big drakes.
Yeah.
Really?
Plumed out, beautiful birds.
So a lot of the so I worked on Lake Ontario there for 2 winters and collected 750 birds, and it's hard to find juveniles and females lots of times of certain species. Like golden eyes, the males stay further north than the females, right?
Yeah.
And I think Mergansers kind of do the
Same.
same
Yeah,
thing, too.
for sure.
Commons, definitely. We don't get a lot of drakes.
I remember flying over the Great Lakes when we were doing aerial surveys in the winter, and you're like, holy cow, there's like not a brown bird in this bunch. There'd be just giant flocks of them,
Yeah. Similarly with the goldeneye, though, there was whole groups of just drakes.
Yeah.
Pretty sizable.
The guys we were hunting with were sending us pictures ahead of time, and I'm like, "Oh, they're really, they're selecting drakes," and it turned out they weren't at all. They were just shooting whatever came in, but that's what it was like. Their bag was like 3/4 or more all drakes.
Well, like that. I mean, it happens sometimes too. It's weird, like that picture with it. It's been weird. This is like a complete dichotomy. That picture, like in North Dakota, because everybody says all there are greenheads. Like there's no hen mallards anymore. And the one day with that picture with Jaeger in North Dakota, it's like all greenheads on the dog stool next that she's sitting on. That's what came in. Mm-hmm. And I can see people getting this like idea that that's all that's out there. But like when I've been at the refuge lately, there's hens everywhere. Like you get to a point where you're like, I'm having a hard time. I don't know why is it just hens flying around without drakes. I don't know if you guys saw that this year a lot.
The hen pintails were brutal.
Oh, hen pintails.
Yeah,
sure.
That was like 90% of the ducks that are decoying are hen pintails.
Yeah.
So,
Well, we're going to 3 next year. That is going to be insane. It's going to change. It's going to change the shooting landscape out there for open air if it's like it has been. So
We'll have to wait 15 minutes into shooting time to take your first shot.
Yeah, exactly. What about the? I put down here. I want to chat about like the goose season and the timing of it. I've had guys near my my permission over here that have been banging away at them when I had 2 deer come out under me, a spike and a button, and I'm like staring at them and I'm like jumping, and the deer didn't even move. Like could have cared less because I'm worried about them being close. But so basically for the listeners, like our duck season ends and then our goose season opens, and so our duck season and goose season don't overlap. Thoughts in general?
I personally don't like it. I think some people do, which is fine. But for me, a lot of the access I have at other times of the year, the farmers deer hunt. So they don't want you on their land, on fields, deer hunting, in the rut, opening week of shotgun, that sort of thing. So I don't goose hunt much this time of year just because I don't have as much access and I'm not that motivated to go set up on the water.
It's like an early season. I mean, really, to me, like what I can get permission for is early season, and then after that, it's tough. Mike,
I agree with Matt. It's just there's a handful of spots that I have permission to hunt, but the rule has always been during the rifle gun season, no go.
Right.
So
right.
That was essentially all but the first week, and then that first week was still crossbow, and a lot of more guys I think are out, trying to take advantage of the rut. But I like what I feel like is the meaning behind it of like they looked at it and said, oh well, we can give these waterfowler guys an opportunity, right? I agree with that they were thinking that,
right?
But it just in the real world doesn't apply. It's kind of like hey, we're book smart versus being like real world smart.
When it goes to 1 next year, right? it better be in the duck season. That's my feeling.
You just made
at
a
that
lot
point.
of people depressed that don't know it's going to one next year.
It's going to one goose in the Atlantic Flyway.
Yeah.
Is it 30 days too?
Yeah,
I think it's
so.
something ridiculous.
It's 30 to 1, I believe.
Yeah.
I'm a critic of that. I mean, that's just it's too conservative. Those things aren't. I don't know.
Yeah.
They can take a little more than we're giving them, but there's a lot of it is just the safety net of like what information do we have too. I think right. So that's protecting the migrant populations. And I get it, but I'm always going to lean. Everybody knows this. The Atlantic Flyway is extremely conservative on these things, and I'd rather see us take a little more risk because we can turn it around if we want to. Mm-hmm. But duck hunter numbers and opportunity is harder to, I think, turn around. You know, it takes longer. Probably takes longer to recover hunter numbers than it does goose numbers, right? So.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Sergeant and Mr. Smith, you're gonna love this house.
Bunk beds in a closet?
There's no field manual for finding the right home. But when you do, USAA Homeowners Insurance can help protect it the right way. Restrictions apply.
And then the goose season, though, comes back in, but it only overlaps our duck season by 2 days. The last weekend of duck season, goose has started, so Saturday, Sunday, you can hunt ducks and geese.
For, like, when we come back of our split in the western zone?
The last 2 days of our western zone duck, you can hunt geese also. And then the goose season extends another week and a couple days. So again, they're trying to create a longer opportunity for hunters.
It's also, I think, like the last 2 days of last 2 days of muzzleloader or something? I can't remember what it is. Like that 8th, 9th. Sure. There's like this. It's like the end of a deer season. Maybe it's the end of the regular season, and then it goes into the muzzleloader. I can't remember, but it is like the things are. There's too many things going on at one time. So.
Yeah.
But
for me personally, I like the overlap of both. It's fun to have the opportunity when you're duck hunting. It's nice to be able to set a goose spread in the water as well and try to get both. But
for sure,
I like Mike said, I like that they're trying to make the opportunity. I just think in reality, in our zone, obviously the goose zones are different than the duck zones, but in our zone, having the goose season during the rut and gun season for deer, just I feel limits opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, the place that we went and hunted that soybean was that last year. 2 years ago?
Yeah,
a couple years ago.
It was an early cut soybean field during the September season, and he deer hunts in as soon as that starts. I mean, most farmers could care less at that early season, but most of those farmers like to sit in a deer stand and shoot a deer here and there and put venison in the freezer. And now we run till like January with the holiday hunt, so it's like impossible to get on fields, it seems. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I do think in our area, a lot of goose hunters aren't necessarily duck hunters. I think there's a lot of goose hunters that are deer hunters and started goose hunting because Bass Pro Shops came in 20 years ago or less than that, and you could go and buy a dozen goose shells for $99 with you and 3 of your deer hunting buddies who share a lease. We're like, oh, we can use our lease more. We all throw in $100 and buy 3 dozen shell decoys, and then after the deer season ended, they're going out and still having fun together and sharing that time and getting to harvest some geese. So I think there's quite a few of those folks that this is like, they're not doing that now, right? They're just deer hunting. So
yeah, this guy down here that's next to me on these big cornfields is goose hunting and then was in opening day deer season, but I haven't heard him shoot yet. So, but I also we got the 14-acre farm and we're seeing more deer than this. I was all excited on this new property. I got a 70 acres around the corner a mile away, and I did shoot a nice buck on it. But other than that, I haven't seen it. I haven't seen anything. Like, there's a spike that does his rounds across the whole 70 acres. I've seen him like 15 times. And he's like, I'm like, oh my God, I was like, kill it. My wife's texting me, she'll be in the stand at the home farm, and she's like, deer, ? And I'm like, here's a picture of this fucking spike again.
In 4 more years if he stays on that pattern.
Oh my gosh. Well, before I got it, there were like 15 different dudes hunting it, and one year they took like 20 some deer off it, and they just shoot anything. And so it's going to be a building process, you know, and some other folks bought some property, and I've talked with them, and like we're all in the same mindset. But now we got to actually shoot some does is the biggest problem, you know. So they're smarter than anything out there right now. So you guys have been helping with the game farm mallard research a little bit, collecting. We talked about the duckbill stuff a little bit and all. But you've kept up with kind of the newest information on potential effects of game farm mallards. I just want to just pick your brain on it, because it's always fun to hear what different hunters say, and I know what my opinions are on the whole thing, but I really try to separate those from my research and just do like really objective research on the topic. But Mike, what do you want to give it a rip? Have either of you ever just shot like tower release birds or no?
I've shot in Maryland. We've shot birds that they call scrunchers.
Scrunchers?
Yeah, because when you shoot, they don't fly away. They scrunch. They like scrunch your necks.
Yeah.
They weren't released for us, but I've hunted properties that neighbor some of these clubs.
Yeah.
And they always had squirrely like plastic bands on them, so everybody wanted to shoot them.
And they're all toe clipped. Oh no, banded or toe clipped. I think they don't have to be both. I don't.
Yeah.
Think, right?
So it was funny. Like a lot of the guys down there, you know, when I was going down there a lot, had like all these lanyards full of these red, orange, yellow plastic bands or whatever, and I'm like, what? Where did you get those? Like from you know, looks like something you put on a bag for a loaf of bread, but they're like, oh, they're from scrunchers. But
I think I still have a band on my lanyard. I shot this bird over on the state land in Montezuma when I was doing forestry school, where I'm teaching now, and it was like such and such club, Maryland, you know, USA, and a zip code on it. And I really didn't. It's kind of funny to think about like having shot that bird and was in forestry school and just getting into duck hunting, and years later now doing game farm mallard research on those exact, you know, mud. I call them manky. It's like I think it's like a Scottish term. It means anything that's like offensive, like manky mallards. Manky mallards, yeah. But so you've not done any release bird stuff specifically? No. I don't have an interest in it really.
No, me neither.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, at this point in time, like, I guess are you looking for our opinion to like, should they stop releasing bird? Is that what you're?
I don't know.
looking
Just
for?
general thoughts. Like from there's a couple ways to look at it. Is either, you know, is the information strong enough to say these things are bad for mallards, or maybe just talk about it from an ethical standpoint too. Right, because I think those are two different topics, really.
I guess the point is, they've been doing it for what, 100 years, and as we already talked about, like that's 100 generations.
Yeah.
Right. So how many generations are you gonna You're gonna have to get them to stop completely, and then go at least 100 more years to see really like if it reverses itself.
That's what
right?
Dominic. I mean, you got Dominic into duck hunting. So Dominic was a gene jockey that Frack got into duck hunting. And now he's a PhD student of mine. So this is like so cool how this stuff comes full circle. So what Dominic is doing is trying to understand how many generations does it take to get back that wild genome, and maybe if there are maladaptive traits in there, how long does that take to revert? And so it might actually not be as long as 100 generations, right? Sure.
But what are we doing here? Because historically there weren't mallards here. So
right,
you know what I mean? It's like, so what are we reverting to?
Yeah.
Right.
But everybody likes shooting them.
Right.
Besides us.
So in New Zealand, they did the same thing. The what is it? The New Zealand, whatever the New Zealand mallard is. It is a gray duck.
Gray duck.
I think it's a gray duck. Yeah. So they hybridized with mallards, and then they actually stopped. They made mallards illegal in New Zealand, and that population was basically a hybrid swarm, which means it was some percentage of gray duck and some percentage of game farm mallard. And you were never going to get rid of all that game farm mallard because they'd hybridized so much, right? But what happened, that New Zealand population was tanking, and what happened was when they stopped the game farm mallards, it stabilized and grew. So it's like there's junk in those game farm mallards that it seems like once you stop inputting it, that population can recover. And I kind of feel like there's a lot of thought right now that what's gone on in the Northeast is that Black ducks didn't do well here. We know black ducks don't do great in certain super urbanized stuff. The wild mallards from the mid-continent don't really do that well here. They were never really here until we started to open the place up, but then we urbanized the hell out of it. But now we got this game farm mallard thing, and so maybe those hybrids between wilds and game farms, mallards, have actually made a mallard that can live in like megalopolis from like Boston down to DC and survive in this very built up landscape. But if we keep jamming that junky game farm stuff in, it might actually cause that population to not do so well. But if you stop and let that hybrid swarm of wild and game farm kind of figure itself out and weed out the bad genes, we might actually have put a really cool animal here that wouldn't have existed otherwise, because it's not going to be a wild mallard and it ain't going to be a black duck. And that's kind of cool if that happens. But, like, you also don't want to stop something without the good science behind it either, you know. But
I mean, I have no interest in, nor do I have the resources to fund going to belonging to those kind of clubs and doing that. It's kind of like, why bother? You know what I mean?
It's a different culture.
Yeah,
for
yeah.
sure.
It's just not. I have no interest in it. And I didn't grow up doing it. I don't like. I've never done it, so I guess shouldn't. But I just have no interest even trying it.
But your marsh down the road that you own, you could literally buy mallards and then raise them on there and then feed them and have them be like ducks that draw other ducks in for you. And you've never thought about doing that, because that's a thing people do too.
Sure.
Right? They're buddy ducks. They go out and get a buddy and then bring the buddy back. You know.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
I think it's just different culturally where people are at. If you were brought up with it, maybe you accept it.
Yeah.
But the way I look at it is, I think it's counter to, from an ethical standpoint, get rid of the science, right? Like, I want to follow the science and see what it says to determine if this is, like, the extinction of wild mallard genetics in North America would be, to me, a horrible thing, right? So we're following that science. But from an ethical standpoint, it's counter to the North American model of wildlife conservation, because animals are not just running and flying targets, right? They're a resource to be used. The money we pay goes into that and then funnels back to that resource, where, you know, game farm mallards are basically flying targets. It's shooting animals as flying targets, and then that money doesn't go really back into the resource, right? As much as like license fees and all that other stuff does. So
How many were? I think I remember hearing you or somebody say, like, it was like hundreds of thousands that were being released a year.
So Hunter
correct?
Collins just defended his master's thesis, and he went back. So the last data we have is from 2001, and I think the Atlantic Flyway and Fish and Wildlife Service did a big study of all the states to see where these things were being produced or being released, basically. That number was 247,000. And they had a 100% response rate from all the states. He got to 297,000 and had an 80% response rate. And given how many are produced, which is at least 400,000, if not 600,000 are being produced, and what they typically are used for, because they're used for dog training and other things. But if you kind of extrapolate out, he got to about 400,000 mallards being released, which is pretty astonishingly high.
Yeah.
That's potentially how high. It's at least 297. He could account for 297,000. Now, what's interesting is that the Atlantic Flyway is holding its own. New York, Maryland, South Carolina released the most of them. But when you start looking at whose Mississippi Flyway's gone up like 18% or something, the numbers of states and such that are releasing them and how many are being released. And it's in the Southeast to a large degree. So what I think's going on is, just like South Carolina, when their mallards stop showing up, if they're not going to show up, we're going to buy them and put them out.
Yeah.
Right? Alabama Waterfowlers Association had a whole thing of selling, mallard ducklings to people so they could release them. And here's the thing: is that if a game farm mallard pairs with a wild mallard and then goes back to the breeding grounds, and that affects their migration, which we have evidence that game farm mallards don't migrate as far south, these folks that are trying to kind of fix the situation so they have mallards might be making it worse. Yeah. That's some stuff we're really working on, because there's very specific genes that code for migration that we can actually track in these populations to see how much of that gene exists, the repetitions of that gene. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty neat. It's like I always say this, like I think I said it 5 years ago. We're 5 years away from really knowing what's going on with mountains, but
Yeah.
I think we've done a lot. So yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel again. I know you guys are Merganser purists, but
Just shoot these mallards because you need them for your study.
we just you don't. You're just volunteering them. So let's talk Mergansers with you guys. So before we get started, you guys are participating in the parts collection survey. You have been for years. Because this is the lead-in to like how many Mergansers New York shoots and
They
stuff.
bumped me this year.
They bumped you.
Yeah.
Because you had how many had you done? 3 or more?
I had done 4 in a row, and you're only supposed to do 3, but they had poor participation, so they asked me if I do it an extra year.
Yeah.
So parts collection survey is where you mail the wings, and you're in again this year, Matt. So Merg Squad might still help New York win. We're going to run the numbers here too for everybody, but. In case people aren't really familiar, this is all part of the Harvest Information Program, and how we get the harvest numbers comes from two things, really. They try to systematically survey across the different types of duck hunters that are out there, right? But they want people that actually shoot ducks. They don't want people with zeros, right? So a lot of you folks that shoot 1 to 5 birds, or however you answer it, you tend not to get a survey. But a certain segment of the population gets the hunter diary, so you're just told to keep track of how many ducks you shoot, because they don't expect that hunters can actually ID these things most of the time. I'll take another beer. I'm just going through them today, I guess. There you go.
You want a beer or anything?
So that hunter diary says how many ducks are shot per state. And then the parts collection survey is where your wings go in, and then everybody shows up. Biologists show up from all over the place in the Atlantic Flyway. Each flyway has one. Canada has them. And that's where they get the identification to species, sex, and age. And so you can get age ratios, sex ratios, all that type of stuff from that harvest as well. And so then those two things combine, the species numbers and then the harvest per hunter, to give us how many ducks are harvested. So you guys shoot the shit out of Mergansers. And so what it does is in the bag, it actually weights heavily towards Mergansers. So for species like mallards, wood ducks, gadwall, all that stuff that are heavily harvested, the confidence around those numbers is really pretty good. I don't think that so last year, New York shot. So you guys New York does not do well in hoodeds as much as we do the other Mergansers.
We could change that.
So I don't know that we could, because if you looked at the hooded harvest in like North Carolina, Georgia, places like that where they winter, they shoot a lot of Mergs.
I feel like this
for
is
sure.
a challenge.
Hoodeds.
He's challenging us right now.
You got to get them on those beaver
now.
ponds before they go.
They're here now. We need the season now.
New York only shot 4,482 hoodeds last year.
But I hunted a lot in North Carolina, so I was bumping up those.
You were bumping North Carolina stuff up.
Yeah.
But 8,965 other Mergs in New York, which, as far as the U.S. total goes, is 18.8% of the U.S. total. Pennsylvania was the next... Ohio... Well, in the flyway, Pennsylvania was the next closest for other Mergs, which was 4,134. Ohio was 4,904, which is 2.2 and 2.1 times more that New York is shooting than the next closest states. The Atlantic Flyway shot 23,739 other Mergs, of which New York's were 38% of. And we shot 2.7 times as many other Mergs and 2.3 times as many other Mergs as the Central and Pacific Flyway. The Mississippi Flyway has us. But that's just because like 4 out of 3 people in the Mississippi Flyway duck hunt, right? But we were 67% of the entire Mississippi Flyway total. Think about that, right? So 13,345. So you guys should be pretty proud.
Last year wasn't even a good year. I think I'll have to look.
2 years ago was a better year.
So how?
Yeah.
So
our real competition isn't anyone.
You guys have a belt. Do you have a trophy for who shoots the most Mergs? Is it a belt buckle? No. Am I going to see it? Okay. Oh, I think I saw it.
By the way, our real competition is Newfoundland.
Yeah. The Canadians are those are Merg aficionados. So when we beat them, that's when we knew we made it.
You beat the Newfies.
Yes,
I bet you did
Newfies.
again this year. I bet you did again.
I haven't looked at last year's, but when we first did, that's when we were like, we knew that we were legit. Those guys crush Mergs.
They can shoot like Mers and stuff too. If you're from there, you can't go there.
Yeah.
You can't go there as a non-resident.
And I believe they have a separate Merg season, like after their duck season. They call them shell ducks. They have a shell duck season. We follow the Newfoundland merging scene.
You follow the
pretty closely.
Newfoundland merging scene. So you guys should go do a
cultural exchange program.
Yeah, Newfoundland's awesome. I would go. I would go back in a heartbeat for sure.
Yeah, they sell Merg decoys in stores.
Oh, that is like a WWF belt. For those of you that can't see this thing, which is everybody because we don't do a YouTube channel, that is awesome.
This is made out of roof tin.
Wait, get in the mic. It's made out of roof tin.
Roof tin, duct tape, and bedazzle jewels that our friend Chad stole from his daughter.
I gotta get you with the Mergs in the background. We'll put this up as the picture for the kitchen conversations. I love it. Heck of a deal. Yeah. But wow, yeah, she's shiny. She's shiny. Yeah. Do you make people wear it when they win?
We don't.
Oh, it's
not. No one is allowed to wear it unless you win.
Yes, when you win. Yes. Yeah. Wow. How many of you guys kill in a year? Do you think?
This year is low. I think you're up on me by 1. I think I'm at 47 so far. Yeah. So in a good year, 120, 130.
Mostly commons?
Depends on where we hunt.
What's the limit? Limit is different than federal, though. They put it as part. Atlantic Flyways put it as part of the duck bag.
It can be. New York. But some states have bonus mergs.
Oh,
PA has bonus mergs.
Yeah.
That's 5 extra ducks.
You can shoot 6 ducks and 5
They don't count them as ducks.
Are you sure still? Because I thought that was an Atlantic Flyway thing that they went to. No?
I think it's state. It's the state can select.
So here's a question: if they're 15 in the Mississippi Flyway, because there's some places they used to be 15. I thought. I got to go look at those regs, or somebody on the podcast, a listener, can tell me what Mississippi is, because I believe our stuff's gonna be more restrictive. Yeah, for sure. So
those guys in PA that get bonus mergs,
yeah, you guys are crushing them for sure.
Shenanigans.
Yeah. Shenanigans.
Not on the equal playing field.
So you guys nervous about Merg Trivia?
A little.
Merganser Trivia? I made them easy because honestly, I don't know as much about Mergansers as I do other ducks, but I'm not going to go into that detail. So, and they also have to be listener friendly as well, right? So, all right. The rules are of Merganser Trivia. There are no rules. No. The first rule of Merganser Trivia is you don't talk about Merganser Trivia.
Wait, we're getting ready to play Merganser Trivia, and he writes his name on the top of his sheet.
There's 2 people here. He writes
I've taken tests before. I don't want you cheating and stealing my answers.
You guys have to hide answers.
It's like, oh, we're back at school. I'm writing my name on the top of my sheet.
Did you listen? You were out doing something. He listened to the Waterfall Trivia one when we were in North Dakota. Did you have a listen to it yet?
Yes.
I was pretty proud of Sarah.
Yeah, no.
She did not cheat either. So, all right.
Yeah, so I did listen to that episode, and now that's why I'm nervous about Merg Trivia, because I'm like...
Oh, how'd you do on that one?
Not as well as I should.
Not as well as I should. There are all right, question number... So there's going to be 10...
It's going to bleed through?
The same rules as always. There's 10 questions, and then there's a tiebreaker, and we do the tiebreaker no matter what, because it's just fun to hear the answer. And we'll reveal answers each time. There are Bard's already staring at Matt's paper. He's like, I'm just in marketing. I don't have a biology degree.
It's true.
There are 3 Mergansers in North America. Name them. Name the 3 Mergansers.
Write it?
Yeah, right. Well, or yes, write them out. You could abbreviate them too. I'll trust you. 3 species of Mergansers in North America. Name them.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
So good, so good, so good.
Just in and so good. Thousands of spring finds up to 70% off are at Nordstrom Rack stores now. And that means thousands of fresh reasons to rack.
How did I not know Rack has Adidas?
Vince, Calvin Klein, Rag & Bone?
Obsessed.
Why do we rack? For the hottest deals.
Save on Madewell, Kate Spade New York, Sam Edelman, Joe's, and more. Great brands, great prices. That's why you rack.
Pretty straightforward for most folks.
1 for 1.
1 for 1. Well, I wanted you guys to get down to the tiebreaker, honestly, so I tried to keep it that way.
Smew. That's the answer to the tiebreaker. I don't know the question, but that's my answer. All right.
What do you got?
Red-breasted, common or American, and hooded.
Bingo.
Yep. Red-breasted. You got the same thing?
Yeah.
Red-breasted Merganser, common Merganser, and hooded Merganser. So one of the ways when you look at the wing, how I have taught students to remember, as long as you can get to the fact that it's a Merganser wing and you can't figure out if it's a red-breasted or a common, if you look at the red-breasted wing, it has 3 white areas. So you point at it and you go red-breasted Merganser, and the common Merganser has 2 white areas with a black stripe. So you just go common Merganser. It's a pretty easy way to get folks to remember it.
What do you call these?
Scapulars? Feathers?
We call them scallops, so
close. Which of the Mergansers, of those 3, nest in cavities, like tree cavities? Which of them nest in tree cavities?
Hooded.
And? Oh! Fuck.
Yeah. Commons can, but they're not. Commons nest in like buildings and chimneys more often, I feel like, than a tree cavity.
But they're cavities.
Yeah.
It was cavities, and I said tree cavities. So
You didn't write that down. You only wrote hooded also.
Yeah. I'm gonna. So hoodeds and commons. Red-breasteds are ground nesters. They'll nest in like logs and fall downs and things like that, but not tree cavities. Yep. All right. Which number 3? So you both have 1 at this point.
Credit.
No, you don't get
partial
partial credit.
Tough professor. Tough grader.
I'm gonna be tough on this. I want to keep your scores almost equal. So
That's why I never went back to school.
Which of the Mergansers typically uses beaver ponds and competes with wood ducks for cavities? Which of the Mergansers typically uses beaver ponds and competes with wood ducks for cavities? What do you think, Matt? Hooded Mergansers? Yeah, definitely. I always thought a really cool experiment. So hooded tend to show up first, and they fill up all the cavities. Like if you got like a colony of boxes. I always thought it'd be really neat to put like window screen over it. So, because the wood ducks need to be able to also recognize that there's maybe something there. And then one day, rip the window screens off and have it be a mad rush and see who fills all the cavities. But, all right.
So we've had hoodies in some of our wood duck boxes, which was not a bad thing for us. We were excited about it.
No, they're
and
cool.
We've talked about...
they dump nest a lot too.
Yeah.
Like they lay eggs in other nests of birds,
We were talking about trying to build ones for commons also, because in Europe they do put up nest boxes for commons.
Really?
Yeah.
What was the difference?
Like,
what would the difference be?
It's different, like size in the like hole diameter.
So you guys are like covering the next questions if we talk about Mergansers too much, because I only had so many facts. And you're gonna love this one, Bard. This close relative to North American Mergansers has a 4-letter common name and breeds primarily in Eurasia.
Yeah.
Oh, the answer.
What other duck do they commonly not commonly, but do they hybridize with?
Yeah,
that one that you just wrote down?
Yes. What do they hybridize with?
Golden eyes?
Yeah, they're more closely related to golden eyes.
More closely related to golden eyes.
Yep.
This close relative to North American Mergansers has a 4-letter common name and breeds primarily in Eurasia, and it also rhymes with pew pew pew. I read that one to Sarah earlier, and she's like, "You might need to give him a hint." And I was
No
like,
way.
"It rhymes with pew pew pew."
That's our retirement trip. Once we need to figure out where we can go harvest a smew.
I'm sure Vladimir Putin will let you come harvest a smew.
We're trying really hard to figure out an alternative route to that one.
Yeah. So the answer to that is smew. They winter in places in Eastern Europe too. Western Europe as well, right? No.
Yeah. Occasionally they see them in Alaska.
Eastern. I'm getting my East and West mixed up.
Occasionally they're vagrants in Alaska.
Right.
So when we went to Alaska, we did some research to see if there was a spot we could realistically go target them. And unfortunately, we couldn't.
So you guys are like 3-3 right now. Yeah. All right. I think we might get somebody on this one. This term is for when broods from more than one hen merganser end up following and living with a single hen merganser as they grow. Eiders do it as well.
I have a thought, but it's not PC, so I don't want to write it down.
Yeah, we can swear, but super non-PC stuff we don't do, man. This term is for when broods from more than one hen merganser end up following and living with a single hen merganser as they grow. Frack's got it. You just write something funny down.
What'd you put?
Crashing?
Yeah.
Crashing. Or crash. Yeah.
I said foster parenting.
Foster parenting. You're not wrong, but the term technically is crash. So Frack goes up 1. All right. Pretty much throw anything out there. Potato chips and pretzels is not an answer. Other than fish, name one item that mergansers will eat. Other than fish, which they're known to eat. Name one item that mergansers will eat other than fish. There was so long that people tried to say all they eat is rough fish and stuff. The same thing they said about cormorants, and
they crush trout.
Trout they
streams.
crush.
Yeah,
for sure. Mergansers like mostly eat perch, I think.
Where we were this week,
hunting,
they were
were crushing perch.
Yeah.
Sadly.
And there was like on the one section of the lake we were hunting, there was like 1,000 comments.
Wow,
there was
it was
a pile
crazy.
of mergs.
Wow.
Yeah.
You guys are in heaven.
Yeah.
We resisted.
Yeah. I didn't. I was blazing.
Oh no. We were like we didn't hunt right that spot though.
Yeah.
Other than fish, name one item mergansers will eat. Mike, what do you got?
I said mussels and snails.
Yeah, mussels and snails for sure.
Crayfish, aquatic insects.
Crayfish. The pictures I love are
hoodies
hoodeds with like big crayfish
Yeah.
trying to get away. Yeah. They'll eat pretty much anything aquatic. Salamanders. They do eat some vegetation as well, but uncommon. Tell you what's crazy is in the southeast forests with water oaks and willow oaks, which are like little size of little small marbles, and you find hooded mergansers loaded with those. I always thought it'd be really fun to come, like in my ecology management of waterfowl, come up with a game where you put small acorns out on the table and give people needle-nosed pliers like a hooded merganser has and see how well they pick them up. But yeah, they'll like be packed right full of them. So they do eat acorns.
I'd like to
too.
eat some of those hoodies. That'd be a good taste test.
Yeah.
Try some of those bad boys.
I've eaten hooded merganser that's decent, but it's still not fantastic.
Yeah,
all right.
You can make the commons and redbreast edible, but it takes some work. That's not one you're just going to throw in the pan with butter. I mean, the newfies do, but
5-4.
Yeah.
5-4. Oh, did you get crushing too, though?
You got it.
I did.
So 5 to 3?
5-4.
5-4. Okay. Okay. True or false? The hooded merganser breeding range extends from the U.S. to the southern portion of James Bay, but the red-breasted merganser breeding range is primarily in Canada. True or false? Usually don't do these because it's a 50-50 chance, but the hooded merganser breeding range extends from the U.S., like starting in the U.S., to the southern portion of James Bay, but the red-breasted merganser breeding range is primarily in Canada. What do you think, Frack? True. Yeah. I had to pull up range maps, right? Like, because I don't think about these things that much, right? I see these birds definitely during hunting season, but I don't always think about where they're at. And I'm like, do I see them in the summer?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So
I've seen hoodies on the river with babies in the summer. And red-breasted mergansers are not here when we first start hunting.
Right. So, right. That tells you whether. So This is all just based on hunting knowledge.
Yes.
That's good.
When I'm fishing, sometimes I see hooded mergansers and their babies.
This one's kind of up for grabs because this goes from my years of flying in planes and surveying the Great Lakes and compiling the Lower Great Lakes January waterfall survey. So my answer, no matter what, is going to be correct. But I still think it. I'm just going from memory.
You cannot dispute my.
That's what I'm basically saying. I'm caveating it. This is the most common species of merganser on the Great Lakes during fall and winter migration.
Ooh.
And when I say winter migration, even like winter overwintering too. You know it's one of two, right? But which one is it?
Yeah, this is tough because.
Yeah, on Great Lakes though.
Oh, I don't like that.
Yeah.
Physically on the Great Lakes, like Lake Ontario, Lake Erie.
Okay. I think I'm wrong.
Fuck. What'd you go with?
I went common.
Oh,
it's red-breasted.
It's red-breasted.
I knew it. I knew it after I wrote it down. And then when you were like, he said Great Lakes, and I'm like, shit. I'm like, I had a marker though, so I couldn't erase it. But I'm just gonna stick with it.
Yeah, because we go. Yeah, it's rare to see. It's not rare, but it's much rarer to see red-breasted around here, like Finger Lakes. But when we go to Ontario,
they're like small lake,
and
they separate. Like there are rivers. Like common mergs are river mergansers, and red-breasteds are like big lakes. Yeah.
And primarily saltwater, I think in general, and Great Lakes. So
Yep. All right, number 9. This is the number of broods that all mergansers typically have each year in North America. The number of broods that all mergansers typically have each year.
I feel like I'm on a downward spiral here.
Don't.
Final answer.
Oh, did you already final answer it that quick?
Yeah.
What do you got?
1.
1. Yeah, it's 1. Yeah. Sarah tried to say 2, and I'm like, you're going to get fired from Ducks Unlimited for those types of things. I'm like, I've never... I mean, you could... A hooded maybe in the South could fit into like a wood duck does, right?
The Ducks Unlimited logo is a mallard head, not a merganser head.
The Merg
so
Squad.
She needs to just know stuff about that.
We know. She doesn't really care about the mergansers. If they benefit from the mallards, then cool. If not,
What I like about this is like I kind of learned some stuff today myself. I had to look things up because mergs aren't a thing that a lot of. I think they're understudied. So
we should.
We keep trying to. Yeah, we keep trying to.
What's the question?
Where are they coming from? Where are mergs coming from here? How are they doing?
Ooh.
Yeah, is there
just fine?
Like
common
mergs were down. We're down this year.
Yeah,
is that just because of us? Like what? You know what I mean? Like what?
Or is it migration patterns?
Yeah, exactly. We don't know.
Yeah,
we need some studies.
Question number 10: what do mergansers taste like? No, I'm just kidding. Of the mergansers in North America, which weighs the most?
Oh.
I tried to make it listener friendly too, right? So. Yeah, you can just turn around and look at the
bonus. What's the average weight of a drake?
In grams.
Oh,
I
can't do pounds to grams.
Yeah.
All I know stuff
we
is
hunted
grams.
With we hunted with Canadians this weekend, and we had a lot of issues with the whole metric versus standard.
Yeah. Common merg males are school buses.
Yes.
They are huge.
Yes.
That's why we call them big sexies.
Yeah.
Big sexies?
Yeah,
Nice.
because they're the big ones. I'm going to say they probably, like a good mature one probably weighs 3.5 pounds.
Yeah. I think it was 3.2.
Yeah.
If I had internet, what's
2,100? You don't have internet.
I won't even have.
You don't have internet here because I was trying to go green, and they put solar panels on my roof, and then they tried to run the line back today to hook it up, and they cut my internet cable.
Oh.
So we do not have internet currently in the shop here.
I've got 2,160 grams to pounds. 4.7. Almost 4.8 pounds, 2,160 grams. Because that's just in my head when I looked it up.
So they're bigger than
that's the biggest. That's like the high end of the range.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You see that, like even those drakes we shot yesterday.
There was a
some
couple
that were
massive ones. Yeah. When they get like that creaminess on their belly, those are usually the bigger ones. If you can see the creaminess in the air. Mm-hmm.
That's what you're shooting for.
Yeah.
There's my Spike on my one camera. I told you it does his rounds. That's fine. Do you guys want to do tiebreaker? I think Frack won.
Yeah.
He gets an extra bush light camo can. Tiebreaker. In years and months, what is the oldest common merganser on record? It was a female. Now, it has to be at least, right? Because it's banded then shot, so it could have been, it's at least this old. In years and months. Sarah got within 8 months or something like that. Which is pretty solid. Matt, what do you got?
13 years, 5 months.
Can you see that in my glasses? It's 13 years, 5 months. No way.
I know my Mergs.
I know my Mergs.
I don't want to play anymore.
Wow. Well,
No, we looked this up because we were trying.
There's no question. Wow.
No, we looked this up because we were trying to figure out.
You looked it up.
I did in the past because we were talking about Merg banding. It's like that's like the holy grail is getting a Merg band.
Yeah.
And neither of us have. So that's kind of like
we
the
know
the
they
last
exist.
frontier.
We've seen them on the internet.
Hoodeds, yes, because
Yes.
you catch them in boxes,
Yes.
right? Like
And-
I
and a few
banded
commons.
I banded a whole bunch in Maine when I was there, out of boxes for sure.
So
I banded.
we see
Goldeneye.
hoodies more often than like you see hoodie bands more often than anything.
Have you gotten even a hoodie band?
No,
no.
Neither of us have ever killed a band in Merg.
Wow.
Yeah.
Neither have I.
And so we looked into it, trying to figure out like how much research is there on these,
Right.
you know, and then we also looked at doing the World Merganser Slam, but unfortunately,
you can't afford it.
No, 2 of the 6 are endangered.
Yeah.
So the only one we could get that we haven't is this Mew.
Are they all in the northern hemisphere?
Brazilian.
There's some in Brazil.
Yeah, there's a Brazilian one, but they're super endangered. And then there's a Chinese, like
I bet
scaled.
you could get them.
You could probably
yeah,
get
yeah.
that one,
Yeah.
but
I think both of those countries would
I
let
think-
you if you had enough money.
probably.
I think SMU in and
Yeah,
of
but I
itself
think the
is
Brazilian
a-
one, there's like 200 left total. It's like they're on like one lake. It's something crazy.
Yeah.
So then we decided to look into doing a Coot World Tour.
A Coot World Tour?
I shot a coot in Argentina. That is a whole different breed. It's It's like 5 times the size of our coot.
But it looks like a.
It looks
American
looks
coot.
like it, but its bill is yellow.
Oh, okay.
And it's way bigger.
I'll have
shot
to look
them
it
in
up.
New Zealand, but those are purple.
I tell you, teaching ornithology, I've learned so much from my students, and the students always want to talk about exotic stuff. So I'd really problem solve this because students always be like, Dr. Schumer, did you know about such and such this bird in such and such a country that does such and such? I'm like, no. Do you know how many birds there are? I don't know every single bird on the planet. So what we started doing was at the beginning of class, I don't start class. I let the students start class. And they have to say, Dr. Schumer, birds are cool. And they do up to 3 of them. And they tell you a cool bird fact to start the day.
Cool.
And this gets all their cool bird facts out of them so that when I'm teaching lecture, they can't be like, do you know this? And I'm like every single time, no, I don't know that. Because they never talk about like things in my backyard that I know about, right? It's always something like super exotic. So
We'll do a Merg lesson. Let us know if you need guest lecturers.
Yeah.
We can come in and speak to the
do you
the
guys,
next
did you,
generation.
did you study for this?
No,
You didn't. Okay.
I was working.
I
up
was,
until
I was, I
30
thought,
minutes, 30 minutes before you got here.
I thought saying you better polish up on your Merg ecology would send you guys to the books, but not so much. Hey guys, thanks for joining us again for another episode of the Kitchen Conversations, and thanks to our loyal listeners for hanging with these guys. I'm really excited about having the Merg Squad back, and let's finish with the boat motor story though.
We had a lot of.
I think
it was
cut
a
you
bad
off.
weekend for boat motors. So mine, the oil pump went, so we couldn't take mine. His was missing the license plate. We went up. We hunted with our buddies in Canada.
Younger guys.
But they didn't have,
Younger guys
yeah.
just starting out.
But they didn't
all
have
the
enough room
small
for
John
decoys.
boats, though,
yes.
look like, right?
Yeah. And we couldn't get 5 guys in decoys. We could hunt 5 out of one boat, but we couldn't get all of our gear.
And yeah,
Hunting
and
5
there,
out of
so.
one boat was interesting.
you guys
16-foot boat.
shooting out of the boat, or were
Yes.
you on shore?
Oh no, we shot out of it.
Was there a
Canadian
blind
nerds
on
that
it?
wanna come to shore.
Or
Yep.
just
Made
was
of
there?
2x4s.
It's just on top of a John boat.
Yes.
That sounds a
Risque?
little a little top heavy.
Hence the need for the chase boat.
Yeah.
So you were just dragging a boat then, or was
We
there
drove
a,
2
was
boats
there
down. The
one of them
motor,
broke down.
Motor
The
blew
9.9 Merg.
Blew up.
Yeah.
The 9.9 Merg blew some white smoke and seized up. So he was hoping that it was just low on oil, but I think something bad happened.
That's rough. That's an expensive trip.
Yeah, my experience with white smoke coming from your motor has never been good.
Yeah.
Never cheap.
But
deal.
We shot some stud Drake common Mergansers. So.
Yeah, we got to talk about
You
going
gotta
to
sacrifice
Ontario.
some
We've talked every year about going like Thanksgiving time or something during the split to where my old stomping grounds are. We've never gotten there, but we should. We should someday. I bet you we could make a hell of an episode if we spent a whole week together.
I would really like to do that. It would be fun.
Yeah.
Especially with this, if I believe we're going to do what we are doing this year for 4 more years after this. So if it's a 5-year trial or whatever, like the last 5-year one. So if we have this month off essentially in November, I'd be game.
My problem is I got to get over this deer thing. I really do. But if I keep shooting these nice 8 points like I have been every year,
then you're free.
Then it's not about getting free. It's like it's going to get old, right? I mean, I missed one. I high hit one barely hit him in the back. I got that one we found at 3:30 in the morning last year that was a little bigger than this one, and I got this one. And then we've had about 10 of them walk by the. I mean, we've been real close to getting another bigger one than that this year. So I think I'm just going to get. I shouldn't say this. I might get bored with whitetails. But
then come to Merging.
It could come to Merging. It never gets old.
All
right, man. We will leave it there. Thanks for being part again of the Kitchen Conversations, guys. Thanks for having me, Dr. Mike.
Thank you.
We're too busy eating crackers and cheese.
Too busy eating
cutting moves.